She's been small.
Good. How are you? Thank you for coming by the cookout today. Yeah. Did you get a hot dog or a hamburger? Yeah. It's a little bit of a motley crew, but you know. You there with Dave that whole time. The guy that worked for it for 42 years. Yeah. I hope he gets a full retirement.
We'll see.
That was funny. He had, you there when he hit the clock? So you left.
That'll work.
Wait to
What's that?
Okay, so like I said,
Done. Done.
The July 19th, 2022 Ways and Means Committee is now called to order. I'll call on council members seeking for our invocation.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman-
Chairman. The world is an awfully noisy place right now, so let's take a moment of silence, please. Amen and thank you.
Amen. Item 2, approval of the June 21st, 20.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Bids and purchases.
For approval. Move for approval. Second.
Okay, just for the record, so that we can have a good sense of what these are. The public can know. Most of them are maintenance for our IT division, and also approval of the Low Country Senior Center, which really needs some uplift and attention. We also have the police department to increase their existing contact with vehicle uplift from 200,000 to 240,000 in the amount of 40,000 with Dana Safety, 4601 Broad River Road, Columbia. Any questions on bids and purchases at this point? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Resiliency and sustainability. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed you, council member seeking.
It's okay.
I want to call on council
been
member
first. We've
seeking
done that.
to discuss the approval of the Carter budget. He is the chairman of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I might, just for a minute, give you all just a couple of highlights. This council has been incredibly supportive of CARTA. Ron Mitchum, our executive director, is here tonight. I'm going to turn this over to him in a second to make just a few comments. But before I do, I'd just like to point out a few things, if you all don't mind, about what's cooking at CARTA these days. One of the things that I think is important to know is that our ridership really has continued to rebound from COVID-19. We're seeing gains every single month. You may have read about and maybe even participated in No Pay May. It was an initiative that allowed all of our passengers to ride free of charge for the entire month of May. We do in fact track ridership, and I will tell you that the ridership went through the roof as a result of No Pay May. So it introduced people to our system, all of it. So I think that that's going to pay some long-term benefits. We just recently received $500 million in federal grant funding to develop a downtown restoration plan and to improve the post-pandemic ridership. So on top of No Pay May, I think you'll see a lot of improvements on the peninsula. Councilmember Lewis is one of our biggest ambassadors. He still sits on the board, and he's probably one of our most active riders, knows more about CARTA than probably anybody out there, and we're happy to have him. Our budget, which we're asking you to approve tonight, is actually, if you've been here for a while, lower than it was last year. There's a reason for that. Last year, we had built in our budget a whole bunch of money, and when I say a whole bunch, millions of dollars, to buy in an electric fleet of buses. Those are coming this year, and when we're done, we will transition ultimately to 100% battery electric fleet. And you'll see, I think, Ron, up to 20 on the road this year. And ironically, getting the buses isn't the hard part now. It's getting the juice for the buses. Supply chain issues have really hit that. We approved our first ever electric bus master plan. Like I said, we're currently operating the Beach Reach. For the first time ever, we've now got cashless payment. We've gone technology wild in some ways. So we're doing a lot. Two other things really quick before I turn over to Mr. Mitchum. You've been reading about Low Country Rapid Transit. It is coming. It's coming sooner rather than later. We just got notice from the FTA to proceed with the next level of final design, which is really good news. They're our funding partner. The county has funded half of it. The FTA is going to fund, we believe, up to about $375 million, which is an enormous amount of money. So when we break ground on this project, we will do it with cash in hand. And finally, just a point of privilege before Mr. Mitchum takes the microphone, I want to thank him, and everyone around this room needs to know that one of the most important projects to this council has been and continues to be the bridge across the Ashley. And I just want to tell you that Mr. Mitchum, as the executive director of the COG, played an incredibly important, if not central role in getting together with the mayor and with the South Carolina DOT to realize that additional $14 million that is going to literally bridge the gap between the funds we had and what we need to make that project successful. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Mitchum just very briefly, because we've got a full agenda, and you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And I would ask in advance your support of the CARTA budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight. I'm going to be very brief because I know you have a long agenda. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the budget. As the chairman mentioned, it's a little bit lower than last year, and that's because we took delivery of those buses last year. All of those buses that the chairman mentioned, it's actually 27 battery electric buses we were able to procure with discretionary federal funds. So those are dollars we competed for. We're able to receive and have those buses now pretty much in hand. As the chairman mentioned, we do have one little hiccup in the plan. It's COVID related. Obviously, the battery electric buses require a charging system. We have a smaller system, but we needed a larger system to be able to accommodate the entire fleet being charged overnight continuously. We're missing something called a switchgear. It's somewhere out there. I can tell you if it's 6 inches or 6 feet tall. I have no idea, but we can't get it. So we pretty much have everything ready. As soon as that piece comes in, we'll be able to pop it in place and be able to operate 50 chargers. So what we're having to do right now is take what we have and really work hard to maneuver buses around, and a lot more effort manually to get that done, to keep those buses rolling. So you will start to see a lot of the older buses start to phase out at the end of the year as we bring those new buses online. So a lot of those two-tone buses that go back to the 96 Olympics. And for those of you who might be kind of new to the transit world, the typical lifespan of a bus is 500,000 miles or 12 years. So do the math, 96 plus 12, we're way past that. Plus we're, a million plus on almost all those buses. Some of them we're almost 1,200,000, 300,000, 400,000, depending on which bus you look at. So we have definitely got our money's worth, but it is time to put them to rest. And so we've been working hard to do that. All in all, things are well, as the chairman mentioned. Budget's stable, operations are stable. Things have continued to trend back up when it comes to ridership. We're heading that direction. So we're feeling really good about the way things are going. I'll also point out that we are adding air filtration systems to all of our vehicles that are capable of killing 98.9% of all the bad stuff, not just COVID, but typical flu, all that other airborne stuff. So it's an added benefit that sort of come out of COVID that I think it'll make it safer and healthier for people to ride the bus. So we're excited about that too. And once again, those were discretionary funds we were able to obtain. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody might have. But as always, appreciate your continued support. Chairman mentioned we did get a grant to look at additional service on the peninsula. So we'll be undertaking that, working with your staff and the public, and be coming back and talking to you about that in the near future.
I think it's important to thank you for your leadership because I have seen what I thought was a little country bus line really turn into a 21st century operation. So I really want to thank you for all that you've done, and of course the chairman as well.
Well, thank you, but we don't get there without your support, so we appreciate it.
Chairman, I'd also like to add my thank yous to Ron on numerous levels, CARTA, Low Country Rapid Transit, COG, helping with the funding for the Ashley River crossing. Thank you on all fronts. I would ask, and I know Councilmember Seekings just mentioned the federal funding for low country rapid transit, but just because we're not in this every day, could you give us a little further briefing on that and remind everyone of the time frame, even though it's a few years out still, of low country rapid transit line?
Yeah, what's happened now is we've had to go through a very intensive process of evaluation with FTA and looking at the preliminary design, looking at our capabilities, our financial situation, et cetera, et cetera. And they have a rating system that they rate your project. It determines whether you get to move forward. You have to have at least a medium ranking. We ranked a medium high. So they felt pretty strongly about our project. What that allows us to do now is go forward and secure a designer, an engineering firm consulting team is what it will be, to design the final design and take us to construction. So we still have some work to do, and that'll take us about 1.5 years, 2 years, depending on, a lot of places it might be a little bit less than 2 years. Here it probably will take us 2 years because we have an awful lot of issues still, to deal with as it relates to congestion, flooding, things like that we have to make sure that we are doing the best we can to mitigate the impacts on that on the system, because what we always are looking for and striving for in the system is reliability, on-time performance. If it's reliable and it gets you where you're supposed to be on time, people will ride it. So I think it'll probably take us about 2 years to get to final design and get the construction contractor on board. So, but what it means is typically when you get to this phase, unless something goes horribly wrong, which I don't anticipate that because we've already done the environmental review, and that's typically where we see problems with projects, we'll enter into what's called a full funding grant agreement. And as the chairman mentioned, we're looking at $375 million, which right now is 60% of sort of our worst case cost estimate. And by that, I mean, we went through 2 series of risk workshops where we bring in all kinds of disciplines, professionals to basically tell us what can go wrong, identify things that can go wrong, and we attach dollar amount and timeline to that, and ultimately a price tag. Because what happens is you ask for a dollar amount based on your project. And in this case, it's 60% is what we could qualify for. So that turns out to $375 million. That's the amount the feds are going to give us when we enter into a full funding grant agreement. So you want your cost to be high to make sure you've set that number high so that anything that comes up that's weird or unique that you have to address that has a cost doesn't throw your budget out of balance or out of whack. So, obviously we anticipated the timeline, the inflationary factors, all those sorts of things, but I think we're in pretty good position to be able to move forward. I don't see any major problems or issues or even any significant, but we will, of course, be coming back and talking with the city as we get into design issues downtown. We pretty much have worked through sort of on the grand scale, what we think things are going to look like and how it's going to happen. But there are probably going to be those 1 or 2 issues we need to talk a little bit more details about how we navigate this intersection or that intersection. I also mentioned we've been working with Robbie Somerville and on the chat side, going to put some funding into retiming traffic signals on the peninsula. And that, that's good for the transit system, but it's also good for the average person who's just driving on the peninsula, those signals to be timed. And so all those things are kind of working together to make sure that we have a successful LCRT project, but also improve things for folks who might not be riding LCRT.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Parker. No, it's
I
Parker.
was just going to move for approval.
Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to try to have to talk here, but talk to you. So in a few of our intergovernmental meetings, we've discussed the Folly Trolley. Is there any room in this 23 budget, or is that going to be something that we look at for 24? I know we've really just at the beginning phase of trying to put something together. I think Councilmember Seekings, we spoke very briefly, working on some meetings with tool design and things like that. But just can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, it's not currently in the budget, but keep in mind this budget actually goes from October to September. But because we have to go to each jurisdiction and present the budget, we have to start really early. So, we are guessing about some things in this budget, quite frankly. For instance, we have an application for a grant for replacing the super stop in North Charleston with a new transfer facility as part of the county's facility there where the new Teddy Pryor building is being built. I expect that will get funded, which means we'll have to amend this budget to include that. So we do mid-year budget reviews and revisions. And so if that continues to progress and it looks like something we're going to do for next summer, then we would certainly address it in the budget. But yeah, we've had some conversations, look forward to continuing to have those conversations to see how we can make that happen and be successful.
Anything else? Folly trolley?
With all that, Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of the budget, Carter budget.
Moved and properly seconded that we approve the Carter FY23 budget. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Item 5.
Move for approval.
Item 5 is for our Resiliency and Sustainability Division, which has been doing a great job. And this particular item is to purchase composting equipment and supplies, and to also do public outreach materials to support the city's composing program. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Item 6. Any discussion on the Office of Cultural Affairs? Did I hear a
Move
second?
for approval.
Okay. Moved and properly seconded. Do I hear any discussion on the approval to accept the grant of 5685 for our Office of Cultural Affairs? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Item 7.
Move for approval. Second.
Any discussion with regard to $50,000 from the National Endowment for the Arts to support public initiatives in the second half of 2023 and the first half of 2024? No further discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Item 8.
We take 8 and 9
stormwater
together, Mr. Chairman. They both have to do with the low battery seawall.
We're taking 8
And 9.
and 9 together, and I heard a second to take them together. Okay. I just want to make sure that the public is aware of what we're voting on. And this is for seawall repairs, phase 3 of the low battery. And it is a change order. Any discussion? If not, that's for 8. Number 9. Number 9 is for the conceptual study development relevant to the next phases of the low seawall. Yes.
The phase 4 in the case of low battery seawall is the final phase, the
Yes.
last part of the project. So it's certainly encouraging that we're moving
Getting close.
forward to that final phase.
Getting close. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor on items 8 and 9, say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Stormwater management approval. Grant application for $300,960,000 grant. And there is a city match. Okay, moved and properly seconded. And this is for acquisition activities of Battery Woods Drainage Improvement Project. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, this
Yeah.
was amended yesterday at committee meeting to only $100,000 grant request due to the fact that there was some communications directly with the grant giving organization, and they indicated we'd probably be successful at that level, but not at this level. So we're amending this application for $100,000.
Instead of the 75,240,
No, instead of 300,960.
just to be clear.
So our match would be the balance.
Okay. Do I hear a second on that amendment?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion with regard to item 10 as amended? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 11, approval of construction contract for Wapu Creek Drive in the amount of $43,890,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 11? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have it. Item 12. Do I hear a second on item 12? Moved and properly seconded. Mr. Mayor?
I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership on getting this little neighborhood park in memory of Susie Jackson done. I don't know if y'all have been over there, but it's quite the family that lives nearby. They're so appreciative. The fountain is very nice. This was a partnership with us and the Charleston County and the library, Charleston County Library System. And it's just a delightful addition to the neighborhood and a fitting memorial to Susie, Miss Jackson. So thank you.
Thank you, and I
push this along.
And I would be remiss if I didn't call my council member, Mitchell, who also played a very, very important role in getting that done there. So I really, really appreciate that. And the family appreciates it as well. Any further discussion? Council member.
I know we've mentioned county council, but I know Councilman Pryor was very involved with that as well. So
Very much
kudos
involved.
to them as well. But you're right, Mr. Mayor, job well done.
And above the 100,000, a little over 50,000 was raised from private funds, including donations from the family. Any further? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Mayor. Item 13.
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion with regard to Johns Island Fire Station number 23? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Item 14.
Move for approval.
And item 14 is a grant for violent offender electronic monitoring program in the amount of $999,999. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
In a second, Councilmember Bowden, and then you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to vote in favor of this tonight. So from my understanding of what I'm voting for, and I have somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, this is to have the money available in case the grant comes through to expand this. I do hope that approval to expand it will come back before us. I think this is a great program. See me afterwards if you want to hear about the myriad problems we have with bail in this county. There has been article after article after article, Post and Courier that you can go back and read. And this helps correct that in some really good ways. And so I really want to see how this program works out. We know it's a pilot right now, so I'd like to see the results of that. But what we can't lose sight of, and what I have expressed to CPD, and I'm still waiting to see that final policy on this topic, is whether a warrant is required to access this data. And again, that's pretty complicated, probably not entirely the subject matter of this committee, but we can never lose sight of the fact that in stopping crime in the short term, we've got to get convictions once we arrest people. The Post and Courier writes an article, the media reports anytime there's an arrest. Nobody ever follows that through the process. If that ends up getting dismissed, it does irreparable harm to trust in our systems. It drags victims needlessly through a process that they never should have been dragged through in the first place if the work had been done on the front end. And it's a false promise to the people who rely on police to solve these problems. And so if we are using faulty evidence in the front end, it will result in massive problems on the back end. And so while I am all in favor of this program, I want to make sure that we are doing it right. I believe that CPD is totally on board with that. I just think that we need to see through the details. And so I'm going to vote in favor of this tonight, but I do hope it comes back in front of us.
And Councilman Bounds, it sounds like something that you might want to discuss with the chairman of public safety, who's about to speak now. Councilmember Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilman Bowden for those comments. And he's right, of course, regarding the need for bail reform in this community and in the state. I've talked with Lieutenant Keith King about this project. It is an unfair system that we're dealing with right now, and I just have to applaud Lieutenant King on taking the initiative with this project, and of course our Chief Luther Reynolds. If this thing can go up and be successful and we get this grant, it is going to make a huge improvement on the criminal justice system. And that's what the idea is for all of us here, is to have a very fair and efficient criminal justice system. And this is just sort of part of that process. So I just wanted to reemphasize this is a grant application. I hope we get this money, but it's important for the community that we see this thing through. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We can't hear. Mr. Chairman, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
They just telling him. Ross here? Ross, can you hear us?
Now we can. Now we can. Whatever you did, fixed it.
Okay. Okay, we're on item 15, which is a grant for $37,000 for a portable laser investigation device, which will do technical enhancements for our police department's forensic function. Any discussion on 15?
We need a second on that one
We
too.
didn't get a second. Moved and properly seconded. All in favor of item number 15, say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Item 16 for approval. Moved and properly seconded. And this is another grant for data link software, which will assist CPD in information and identification of investigation efforts. Any further discussion on 16? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have it. Item 17, planning and preservation and sustainability. Moved and properly seconded that we approve the submission for requesting a $75,000 grants and funds with an optional match of $25,000 to support community education and outreach and historic surveys of African-American settlement communities interested in pursuing National Register nomination, which I think is a good thing. And I really, really think that our planning department has really been doing a great job on our settlement communities and recognizing them. Any discussion, Mr. Mayor?
Going to share, Mr. Chairman, that this past update of the city's comprehensive plan was in fact the first time that the city had recognized these settlement communities. And so now to go to the next step and carry forth with some action items after that comprehensive plan is a very positive thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And the planning department, I went to a couple of their meetings on it. And they're pretty thorough in what they do. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 18. No, is it 18 or 19? 18. Yes. Item 18. Right. This is the bid. Any discussion with regard to item? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can wait till city council.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Okay. Item 19.
Move for approval.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 20. Any discussion? Do I have a second? Okay. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out to everyone that, as you can see from the funding sources for this, this is, by the way, to approve some undergrounding of utilities near our affordable housing development, James Lewis apartments. And due to the fact that we changed our protocol for undergrounding approvals, we were able to come forward from time to time with a approval like this. So you'll note that $119,756 for this undergrounding will be funded by Dominion. And that's a good thing. Every 119,000 we save on something, or we can get someone else to fund is good. So this would not have been possible without the work of Tracy McKee, and I think Councilmember Appel served on that committee where we came up with that new protocol for the non-standard service funding, as they say. So I just thought I'd point that out, that we've saved some money here.
Appreciate it. Any further discussion on item 20? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. I'll call on our chairman of real estate, Councilman Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. The real estate committee met yesterday at 3 o'clock. We had a very long agenda, but we were able to get through it in pretty short order. The first matter we took up was an extension to the MOU between the city of Charleston and the Epic Center. That passed unanimously. The next thing we discussed was an extension of a lease over at 22 West Edge for the Charleston Digital Corridor Foundation. That was extended to a month for no more than 12 months. That was approved unanimously as well. Items C and D all pertain to a joint county industrial park with properties on Johns Island and elsewhere in the city. We were able to get some in real time number crunching from our CFO. Turns out that the bottom line impacts to the city are pretty de minimis on this. This passed unanimously as well. We then approved a lease agreement with the Marina Variety Store in the city of Charleston, and we approved a permit with the National Park Service for the First Day Festival over down by the aquarium. And then finally, we extended an MOU with Landmark Enterprises involving the Sumar Street redevelopment project over in West Ashley. And then we got to the annexation portion of the program. I had to recuse myself from the first two items, but all of these annexations were approved. And our annexation coordinator, Molly Jones, is doing a fantastic job in getting folks incentivized to annex into the city of Charleston. We had a good discussion at the committee yesterday about ways that we can encourage and incentivize properties, especially 6% commercial properties, to annex into the city. We got to find ways to make ourselves attractive. It's a competition. Do you develop in the county? Do you develop in the public service district, or do you come into the city of Charleston? And, we don't have the ability to, cut, developers and businesses checks like the state government does, things of that nature. But we can make it worth our while, and we can provide incentives for developers in the form of zoning, our development review processes, things of that nature. And I think we had a really good discussion about that. Councilman Waring and Councilman Shade had some very good conversations as it related to the specific property that was discussed at the West Ashley Revitalization Commission meeting last week, the old Hyundai dealership over there. And a lot of good stuff happening. So we got a lot of exciting developments going on in West Ashley. We had two that we discussed at committee meeting yesterday, Epic Center, Sumar Street, a lot of exciting stuff happening. And that concludes my report, and I'll move to adopt it.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded that we adopt the report as submitted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Is there anything else to bring before this committee? Council member?
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I didn't see this in the Ways and Means agenda, but I did get it in the packet. I just wanted to ask the performance assessment consulting services.
That's in there.
Is that
That's-
okay?
Yeah, that's in there.
Could I?
That's for the senior center.
No, this is
That's
for,
not it?
this is establish a contract for performance assessment. Is that a staff assessment?
It was in bids and
That was
purchases.
under-
Okay,
That was number one.
okay. Is that staff assessment? Just trying to understand the item.
It's not a performance assessment for staff. Pardon? Processes.
Employee surveys that we're due every other year.
Okay,
So we'll be utilizing them for that purpose as well.
thank you.
And as we talk about performance assessments, I think that is a discussion that is definitely needed in the Human Resources Division. And we are starting to discuss that now. Anything else?